Welcome back, everyone, to another reaction video. Well, we're going to a channel today we've never taken a look at before, but it showed up in my recommendeds right about the same time that it showed up that my friend Mr. Terry had done a reaction to this video. It's called Dictator Wholesome Moments by a channel called Stoic that has 38,500 subscribers right now. So I have no idea what to expect. I haven't watched the video. I haven't watched anything from this channel yet, but it's a 9-minute video. I figured, what the heck, let's give it a try. So put the link down in the description. If you do like this video and you like his content, I would encourage you to check out more of his content and even subscribe if that's something you are inclined to do. So just want to say something up front about this, just based on the title, Dictator Wholesome Moments. Obviously what we're going to be doing, I guess, is looking at some non-evil moments from dictators. And the only thing I would say to that is this. Number one, focusing on things they did that weren't evil does not mean they're not evil. It just means that moment wasn't. And the other thing I would say is that people don't rise to positions of power being hated by everyone. There's a reason why they get into a place of power and influence. And I understand that there are a lot of other factors that go into people rising to power, fear and just military power and violence are all a part of it. But at some point, somebody liked and believed in this person to allow them to have been in that position of power and to have supported them in some way, even if it was only so they could get themselves ahead too. So I would guarantee that in most of these cases that we're going to talk about, there were people who did not see these people as evil. Just like there are people who didn't see someone like Dennis Rader as evil, and he was the Green River Killer, we don't always see the other side of people until much later, until something comes out. So that's all just by way of kind of prefacing all of this. Let's go ahead and dive into the video.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about everyone's favorite dictators today, and if you can read the title, it does say Dictator Wholesome Moments.
So I'm noticing again that we have another channel that's obviously being influenced somewhat by the style of Salmonella. He's really kind of spawned a whole generation of, I don't want to say copycats, but people who are inspired by that style.
So don't come crying into the comment section about how these guys were really evil. We're not here to talk about that.
So who did we have here? We've got Fidel Castro, Muammar Gaddafi, Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin. So all 20th century dictators.
So don't come crying into the comment section about how these guys were really evil. We're not here to talk about that. We're only here to talk about the good that they did, if any. But before we get into it, I have to put on my dictator garbs. Nice. Now that I look the part, let's get into it. Okay, starting with Fidel Castro. Did you know that he really liked dairy cow? Okay, no. I'm kidding. Every other stick animation channel has probably made like 5 videos about 10 ways Fidel Castro survived CIA assassinations, or another clone of Salmonella's original Fidel video.
I love that he even acknowledges the inspiration of Salmonella here. That's great.
Today, we'll be talking about his Euro step. He balled so hard, he almost made his fellow communists rethink their allegiance to the revolution. He apparently used to pull this move all the time, and Che Guevara used to seethe so hard about it that he wrote about it in his diary entries. Here's one excerpt of his ceaseless coping about the absolute baller Castro. In his frequent basketball matches, Fidel has started using a new move he simply calls the step. It is undeniably effective, yet is its goodness equally undeniable? As revolutionaries, we must not merely pay attention to ends, but to means. I worry that this flash and pomp is not befitting of the revolutionary leader. It serves to separate him too much from those caught in the chains of a maudlin life, marred by oppression and economic strife. Yes, it leads to a basket, but at what cost to the communal spirit?
This can't be real. There's no way that Che Guevara actually is taking a basketball move and applying it to the communist revolutionary spirit. Is he really? But this goes to a larger problem that happens with movements like this is that inevitably there are people within your movement who don't think you've gone far enough. And when they don't think you've gone far enough, they'll either try to overthrow you so that they can take it that extra step, or they just stop supporting you and they go to start their own movement that more reflects what they want. It's difficult to rein people in when you go down the path of violently overthrowing a government, because what's to keep somebody else from violently then overthrowing you? You've set that standard. This is really interesting, though.
President of Yappersville himself. But what did you expect when you realize this is what he looks like? Negative canthal tilt, non-symmetrical face, and I'm also willing to bet he's got a Norwood hidden under that cap. His shit is probably pushed way back. Okay, I know this is a really bad photo of him, and he looks relatively normal in other photos, but we're just going to pretend he looks like this for the sake of my cooking. Anyway, I actually managed to find video of this legendary Euro step from Castro, and you can see that he kinda does it. Personally, I wouldn't have called that a foul, and he shouldn't have got the free throw, but you probably don't get to argue with the Dairy King himself. Also,
I'm still trying to wrap my mind around there being footage of Fidel Castro playing basketball. This is crazy.
So he double dribbled, but that's neither here nor there. But the fact that he was a baller is definitely a wholesome moment in my book.
That's crazy.
Next, we have Bashar al-Assad, which I'm guessing a lot of people don't actually know, but he had some serious motion. You've heard of warfare, lawfare, but probably not hoe-fare. He had hoes lining up to email him flirty messages, and he would just delete them and email his wife instead. Over 3,000 of his emails were leaked, and it was found that he had replied to none of these hoes, with some even sending risque images and texts along the lines of, "So cute, I miss you." That's a lot of yous, you trifling hoe. Comparing the contents of Assad's emails and Hillary Clinton's emails, they're night and day. In one of Clinton's emails, she says she's gonna sacrifice a chicken to an ancient Babylonian demon, which is actually true, look it up. And the most out there thing in Assad's emails were that...
Wait. No, come on. There's no way she actually said that. At least not like that. Maybe there was a joke made about sacrifice. I don't know. I gotta look this up. Okay, so apparently it was in the context of talking about some kind of a diplomatic situation that was going on, and she... The whole email talked about a number of different superstitions, like crossing your finger and doing this and doing that and sacrificing a chicken to Moloch. So it's really kind of an obscure reference, but she did in fact say it apparently in one of her leaked emails. The only reason I think that this one in particular is something people latch onto is that Moloch was a Canaanite god that's referred to in the Bible that specifically involved child sacrifice. So while I get the whole aspect that it was tongue-in-cheek and it really wasn't meant that she was actually going to do this, I just feel like there's certain jokes you don't make. Anyway, let's continue.
He had women tripping over themselves to see him, which he ignored. There was even the daughter of the Syrian ambassador to the UN who emailed him, "I'm coming today, I will arrive there tomorrow, and I want to see you after tomorrow. I can't wait." No excuses, smiling face emoticon, "Miss you, please, please, please." But instead of replying to these wenches, he was busy instead sketching large pink and red love hearts that he emailed to his wife.
That's crazy.
His wife would then write him poems, and here's just one of them.
And again, this shouldn't be necessarily surprising, because these folks are still human beings, and while they have very, very dark aspects to their character, and many people are capable of doing unspeakably horrific things, people can kind of compartmentalize that. You know, many of the people running concentration camps and mass extermination camps had families and were described as being normal, good parents. And, you know, they were able to separate the horrific things they did from the things that were otherwise a part of every person's life. But it's just interesting to hear them described in such detail.
Sometimes at night, when I look to the sky, I start thinking of you and ask myself why. Why do I love you? I think and smile, because I know the list could run on for miles.
Here's my question here, because obviously this sounds like it was written to rhyme in English, but he wasn't writing these things in English, was he? I don't know.
And most of you can't even get a text back. How does that make you feel, huh? He also sent her country music videos such as the Blake Shelton song, God Gave Me You.
It's actually not a Blake Shelton song. It's by a Christian artist named Dave Barnes. Blake Shelton covered it after he heard it on the radio and really liked it.
Okay, this man had some serious game back in 2012. Shit, I'm taking notes as I write this script for the video. He also apparently...
I'm still thinking about this because there's another really popular country song that started out as a song by a Christian artist. It's God Bless the Broken Road, made famous by Rascal Flatts, but it was originally by a Christian band called Selah, and then covered by a Christian artist named Jeff Moore. In fact, years before Rascal Flatts had that song recorded, it was one of the songs we played at my wedding.
He used a third party to bypass US sanctions and bought the iPad game Real Racing 2, as well as Chris Brown music, proving once again that gamers are indeed an oppressed group. His wife was called Asma al-Assad, and he had her saved as AAA. And this is just speculation from me, but I like to think he called her AAA battery, but that's just what I would do. Anyway, it's a pretty safe bet to assume that a lot of those attempts to seduce the dictator were probably honeypots, and the fact that he stayed faithful to his wife is definitely a wholesome moment in my opinion. Next we have...
He actually makes a really good point there, that it would make sense for a group like the CIA or Mossad or someone to try and infiltrate and get close to a dictator by using the allure of an attractive woman. So maybe that's why he rejected it.
Muammar Gaddafi, who didn't survive his CIA-backed revolution, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about his visit to Italy before the Civil War, in which he was attending a World Food Summit. When he arrived in Italy, one of his aides asked an Italian model agency for 500 women between the ages of 18 to 35 years, and they were kept in the dark about who it was they were going to see, but it was generally assumed that it was going to be a party. However, there was a dress code of no miniskirts or low-necked dresses. Gaddafi then had them all seated in a huge hall, where he then lectured them for 2 hours on religion and tried to convert them to Islam.
Oh my god!
He was on a side quest right before a world meeting about food insecurity.
What?
Yes, famines around the world are bad, but he still had time to play Captain Saberho. His all-female staff then handed out Qurans, and this is an image of some of them leaving the quote-unquote party.
They weren't just Qurans either. They're like massive Qurans, like with hardcovers. Wow, interesting.
This image is just so funny to me, especially because the orange one in the front is clearly mad, whereas the one on the far right is beaming with joy. And
I would guess, this being Italy, that the majority of these women were probably Catholic.
Different responses. He also paid them all €50 and lectured them on how women in the West were treated, and stated that women were often used as pieces of furniture, changed when it pleases men. Was he an OG feminist? Who knows?
I don't know. I'll at least give him credit for that. All right.
Anyways, when he then went to the World Food Summit that he originally came for, he immediately used his time to criticize the West for looting natural resources of devastated nations under the guise of humanitarian relief, which actually does have some truth to it. This man came to Italy, proselytized some hoes, then argued about Western hypocrisies, then leaves without further explanation. Definitely a wholesome moment, and I wonder if any of the 500 models actually converted or not, but I guess we'll never know.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say no.
Alright, now let's get into the meat and potatoes. Hitler wholesome moments. He did have a few, if we're being unbiased.
His dog?
He was the first to pioneer for animal rights and increased the punishments for those who are cruel to animals.
Yeah, we've actually talked about this before, that, I always found it really interesting how the same ideology that demonized groups of people, Jewish people, Russians, gypsies, homosexuals, the disabled, that would want to get rid of those kinds of people, would be so adamant about protecting animals from cruelty.
He also revived the German economy post-Treaty of Versailles, managing to reduce unemployment from 30% in 1933 to just 5% in 6 years, reversing the negative trend of...
I mean, building up for war will do that for your economy.
Gross national income. That was as a result of the global depression. You probably already know this, but he was the first to run public anti-smoking campaigns, correctly identifying the risks to health that smoking posed and encouraging Germans to quit. And that's probably all you can really say about him when it comes to strictly wholesome moments. But yeah, that's Hitler. Our final dictator will be Stalin, who
Joe
some
Steele.
people idolize to this day still. And I mean, if you can get past the whole gulags and the engineering of the Holodomor, giving him a kill count of at least 9 million, he wasn't that bad. No, yeah, he was pretty bad.
He was.
He did have his wholesome moments, one of them being that he was a poet in his earlier years.
What?
As a child, he was very fascinated with literature, and even memorized the famous Georgian medieval poem, The Knight in Panther's Skin, which is around 1,600 verses long, and takes about 8 hours...
He memorized 1,600 verses of this stuff? Wow.
...to read. So, he really liked his poetry, if you couldn't tell. At 17, whilst training for priesthood, he took a selection of his poems to Prince Ilya Kavkavadze, and it impressed him so that he had 5 of Stalin's poems published under the pseudonym Soselo.
Interesting to see kind of the parallels here where he wants to be kind of an artist. I mean, not a painting artist, but a writer, a poet, while his contemporary over in Germany and Austria wants to be a painter.
The prince described Stalin as a young man with burning eyes, which is pretty prophetic, to be honest, even if unintentionally. The poems were then printed and admired by many all the way up until the 1970s.
So this is interesting. I mean, because we're talking about Joseph Stalin, who is going to become a dictator responsible for the deaths of millions of people in a country that is officially atheist in nature at that time. And he was going to be a priest, it sounds like, at one point. And he talks about, move tirelessly, do not hang your head, scatter the mist of the clouds, the Lord's providence is great. Interesting.
Where the majority were published anonymously, so that most didn't actually know it was Stalin's work that they were reading. He also apparently used his fame as Soselo to acquire information necessary for a bank heist in 1907, during which his gang killed around 40 people for a large shipment of money, which, I mean, is less wholesome, to be honest.
Is less wholesome, to be honest. Understatement.
Going from a poet to a bank robber is quite the career change.
Bank robber, murdering bank robber.
And it's kind of depressing if you think about it. However, if you'd like to laugh, you can check out my Stupidest Scientific Theories videos, in which Lysenko, one of Stalin's top Soviet scientists, came up with some of the stupidest scientific theories, going so far as to state the idea of mutation in genes was a bourgeoisie invention, and pioneered his plant communism theory, which was a major cause of the famines that plagued the Soviet Union. If you want to support me in my quest to become a dictator...
Alright, that's interesting. So, if you like his style, if you like his channel, check him out. The link's in the description. And if you do that, and you watch some other videos, and you find one you think would make for a good reaction on this channel, let me know. And I'll try to check those out. So, thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.